It's a historic day in the United States today as the UAW, the United Auto Workers Union, has gone on strike in 3 major plants across the U.S.
Yes, and I think you and I and all of us did not want to make this video
Yep.
because we thought and we hoped this would be resolved, but it did not get resolved and the strike is on.
So the union contracts were up for renegotiation. The deadline was 11:59 p.m. last night.
Yes.
And no agreement was made between the UAW and the 3 major automakers here in the U.S. You've got Ford, General Motors, Stellantis, which is Chrysler, and now we've got strikes at 3 plants. So the UAW has targeted 3 plants to start their strike. So it's not across the board, but it is still a significant
Yeah, and it
day.
could get worse.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is very important because it's affecting the vehicles you buy. So let's go down the list and see what the affected vehicles are.
Now, first of all, about 12,700 workers are on strike, right? It was a stand-up strike, if I'm correct in that terminology, and that's 12,700 of about 140,000. So it still seems pretty small, but the 3 plants that the UAW has started the strike with are plants that make some incredibly profitable and incredibly popular vehicles.
And iconic vehicles.
Yes.
So first, well, let's start, I guess, alphabetically with Ford, and then General Motors, and then Stellantis. So Ford Michigan assembly plant in Wayne, Michigan, that produces the Ford Bronco, the 2-door and 4-door, and the Ford Ranger. Those people striked.
Okay, what's next?
General Motors Wentzville assembly plant in Missouri, outside of St. Louis, that builds the Chevy Colorado, the truck that I own, the GMC Canyon, and also 2 vehicles that people forgot about.
Yeah.
Chevy Express and GMC Savannah. These are full-size traditional vans that are still being produced. A lot of them are still used for work, commercial purposes, shuttles, ambulances, etc.
And then the Stellantis Toledo assembly, so the Jeep plants in Toledo that have been building the Wrangler for decades and decades, and of course the Wrangler 4xe, as well as the Jeep Gladiator. So all of these 3 plants, as we understand it, are idled as we speak because there are no workers to build the vehicles.
There's a small caveat. I was just reading about this, that the GM plant and the Stellantis plant, the Jeep plant, most workers walked out, but only partial workers walked off the Ford plant. But still, you can't make vehicles when your paint department and your final assembly is not there.
So there's a lot of moving parts going on in
Yeah.
here. Now there are really 4 points that the UAW and the automakers failed to reach. The UAW wanted better pay, so they wanted and it's a little bit more complicated than this, but pay increases of about 40%.
Over 4 years.
Over 4 years.
Yes.
Yep. And what did General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis offer in counter?
Well, several automakers are obviously they've been negotiating or they've been trying to resolve this up till now, and it didn't work.
So the numbers that I read is Stellantis offered 17.5%, General Motors was 18.5%, and then Ford was the highest at closer to 20%.
Yeah, and that's why maybe only partial workers at Ford walked off, because Ford was the closest to what the demands were from the union, right? But it's very complicated, right? Pay increases was one thing, also the tiered system.
Yeah.
So the tiered system was another request from the union, and basically it had to do when those workers were hired, before 2007 or after, because it has to do with different benefits and different kind of pay increases.
Yeah, and along that line, number 3, right? Pensions. So in 2007, that was a pivotal year. That was, of course, when the economy melted down,
Yeah.
and General Motors and Chrysler filed for bankruptcy, and there was a renegotiation of the contract to basically try to keep the companies afloat. Well, as the companies are now making record profits, the UAW feels that they deserve a bigger cut of the rewards that the companies are bringing in. So that's why 2007 was a pivotal time, because that's when those contracts were renegotiated. And then the 4th point is related to hours and work week. So they're going for a 4-day work week, a 32-hour work week instead of a 40-hour work week.
Yeah, and this is a little bit confusing to me too, because most of these plants run multiple shifts, right? So I guess they'll have to reorganize the shift system too, right? If they're negotiating for fewer work hours per week, then you may need more shifts, right, to continue the current production.
Now let's talk about what this means to you and I. It's been a really tumultuous couple of years with supply chain shortages, that
my
kind of
gosh,
thing.
yes.
Dealers not having the cars that they want on the lot, high prices on new cars, and certainly this has the impact to dramatically affect the supply line of new vehicles to dealerships. So we could be in a situation, if this were to last even more than a few days, where vehicles are going to be in short supply, hitting dealership floors.
And these are important vehicles that people have been waiting for. For example, people who ordered Broncos, some of them still don't have their Bronco.
Yep, yeah.
And it's affecting the Bronco. But here's the thing. A lot of these manufacturers have inventory already built up, right? So there's a bit of an inventory for Colorado and GMC Canyon because the plant has been working and they've been shipping trucks already, even though there were some delays in that delivery. And I read that Stellantis has the longest vehicles on lot supply right now,
Yeah.
which is about 100 days total. And we're talking about all vehicles or most vehicles, not specifically Wranglers.
And what's been happening is the automakers have been preparing for this exact moment, knowing that there could be a strike, and there's been a big push to build vehicles so that there is supply and inventory to make up for any shortages. It depends on, of course, how long the strikes will last and also how far they spread. Right now it's the 3 plants, but there's many other plants in North America that could be affected if they decide to expand the
Well, you
strike.
said over 140,000 workers total are in the union.
UAW, yeah.
Yeah, so it could get a lot worse if more workers walk off, right?
Now, it also affects the thousands and thousands of people that build parts for the cars, right?
yes.
Because think of all the suppliers that build the headlights and the seat belts and the chips and all of those families downstream that they're now going to potentially have to idle those facilities too, because you don't need to build 100,000 headlights for trucks that aren't going to be built. There could be layoffs in that sector.
I know, and tires, everything,
Right.
right? I mean, this is very complicated, right? It affects a lot of people. It affects the consumers like us, right, who are purchasing vehicles as well. So I hope this is resolved really quickly because, yeah, it could get worse.
Now, Andre, why do you think the UAW started with these 3 plants and the vehicles that we mentioned earlier?
So first of all, these are popular vehicles. They're high margin, right? So they're profitable vehicles, right? Because many Wranglers, Gladiators, Broncos, they're enthusiast lifestyle vehicles, right? So they tend to have bigger margins, right? Because they have more accessories and more parts and more options, and also. Yeah, I mean, the Chevy Colorado and the GMC Canyon is a new generation of that truck.
Right.
So people are excited about those trucks.
I mean, all of the trucks listed actually are going through a new generation shift. Gladiator just revealed at North American International Auto Show.
It's a facelift,
Yep,
update.
Yep, new. We've got the brand new Ranger,
Yes.
right? And of course the new Colorado and Canyon. The 3 U.S. assembled mid-sized trucks, right? And what does this mean for the rest of the industry? Well, I would imagine manufacturers like Toyota, right, that build vehicles like the Tacoma,
Nissan, potentially.
Nissan with the Frontier,
Yeah.
now have a potential to sell more trucks that aren't affected by this strike. And then other also U.S. automakers like Tesla, where the UAW doesn't have workers within Tesla, they're going to keep cranking out cars, and you see that across other automakers too. So it's a very interesting time right now, but the potential costs for the automakers are pretty staggering.
Yeah, wasn't there a number like almost 400 or 500 million a week?
Yeah, Deutsche Bank predicted that the strike could cost up to $400 to $500 million a week per automaker, which is an astonishingly big number. So it's a pivotal time in the car industry right now. Of course, we try not to get political, but this is such an important news that we had to at least talk about it in a video, let you guys know what's happening, and we will continue to update as things progress.
Yeah, and it's been a tough time, like you said, a couple of years, 3 years through COVID, shortages, delays, and now this is not getting any better as far as this particular issue is concerned.
And then we talk about, well, what does this effect have on the used car values, right? If folks aren't able to buy new cars in the same amount that they would like to, well, then used car values could go back up again. We saw a slight wane as inventory started going up, but maybe those will start climbing again. And then, like you mentioned, Andre, folks that are still waiting on Broncos. You got Ford trying to roll out the Ranger, Chevrolet trying to get Colorados and Canyons out the door as possible. Maybe there's people waiting for vans.
Yeah.
The full-size van, right? Government contracts.
Right,
That's a
absolutely.
popular vehicle for that.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, new Gladiator and Wrangler. So this is a big deal.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I was really scared that the F-150 or the Silverado or the Ram 1500 would be affected right now, but they're not currently yet. I said yet, right? Because they could be affected by
Right.
this. But what Ford and GM and Ram do for a lot of their full-size vehicles and heavy duties, they have plants across, Canada, U.S., and Mexico,
Sure.
building all those parts. So they're trying to diversify as far as their geographic locations and also the workers, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the UAW is going after vehicles like the trucks because these are the goose that laid the golden egg for the manufacturers.
Yes.
And as you mentioned, the mid-size trucks were first, but if this does bleed into the full-size truck territory, then things are going to get very interesting.
Yeah,
You know.
crazy.
Well, guys, let us know what you think in the comment section below. We are open to input. Just keep it civilized and try to keep it non-political. And this has been Tommy.
Or constructive.
Constructive. Keep it constructive.
Yes. Thank you. And this is Andre. And then remember, alltfl.com. We have 8 channels, right? So you can go to one place, alltfl.com, for everything automotive in one place.
Yes. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it.